Welcome to Philadelphia Walks PTSD. My name is Sharon Cole, or Sharon or Cole, whatever you want to refer to me as. No big deal, in a good way. Don't care. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words shall never hurt me. And of course, words do technically hurt people. That's sort of this saying that came out in, I don't know, several hundred years ago. It seems like some sort of poet or whoever, expressionist person, whoever got to coin phrases back in the day, said that. So anyway, we're here on day 120. Let me look here really quick. My gosh. We are here on day 120 of my one video each day, 365 days. Here, I'll write it in. Day 120. Trying to raise money, trying to find donors big and tall, short and small, who will fund me, maybe even pay me to document my experience or show what happened. I had all these ideas of, could I find a venture capitalist to maintain like a fake apartment just to see what kind of activity would happen if people believed I lived there, who those people would be part of a gangstalking community or communities. And if they actually believed I lived there and there were sounds in the apartment, so forth and so on, what would they be willing to do? Would they be willing to stand outside the apartment and have skits, fake skits, and talk really and very loudly like a first floor apartment, believing that I could hear them and that it would seep into my brain and poison my thoughts and all that other kind of stuff? So anyway, looking for any donations, but of course, ultimately would love to have someone fund me to be able to work in a capacity that I can handle and maybe prove my case. With that said, I'll start from the beginning. I was made to believe I'd be murdered the fourth Monday of January 2011. It was a series of orchestrated events that scared me out of my apartment. It was absolutely a series of orchestrated events because I experienced what can only be described as like someone's low or high budget. It's, somebody had money, because I experienced what seemed like a science fiction, surreal experience, for lack of a better word. The first 7 days were incredibly intense. All kinds of crazy activity was going on. We also had a blizzard, and it wasn't just a brain thing. People actually contributed. I'm sure my brain suffered. I wound up with PTSD, and I completely suffered as a person, but people actually created scenarios and events and skits that caused my terrorization. And it's very easy for people to twist things, particularly in a court of law, or if, I have a certain level of education which has helped me personally. Other people might not have that advantage to constantly think or maybe to have the gods out there try to help someone realize, like, someone will try to twist it and make it seem like, well, no, you just, something bad happened and you just had a really bad reaction, and it was your brain from then on out made you seem like you were in a sci-fi film. Nope, absolutely not. My brain contributed to a very little percentage. It was clearly damaged in a PTSD way. This is, a lot of people experience post-traumatic, even from small things like a car crash. What could seem like a small-ish fender bender could cause a lot of trauma for certain types of people, not weak ones. These would be just, it's hard to know why people are wired, everyone is wired a certain way for whatever their role is in the world. I have no idea. So you never know. So the people who seem the toughest can sometimes wind up seemingly the weakest should they be put in a certain situation. Anyway, in my case, a lot of people contributed to creating an entire environment, an entire experience, if you will. It's akin to the movie called The Game, which came out in the late 90s with Sean Penn and Michael Douglas. In the movie, Michael Douglas, the character, with a little twisting of his arm by his brother, he winds up signing up for something and consenting to experience something that could change his life, make his life more exciting. I never signed up for anything, but it's like that. There were things that occurred in the movie and done. They do it. They can do it. I already recognized it. In fact, I could watch the movie and then people would show that they could do some of the things in the movie. That's how weird it gets, because they would know, somehow they magically knew that I saw this movie, and they would play it out. Totally crazy stuff. Anyway, I do believe I was actually led in, almost like Temple Grandin, humanely leading someone in for the slaughter, if you will, metaphorically. I'm not going to be slaughtered, but there are these people created enough associations and enough dots to connect to make you wonder if you're going to be murdered, if you're going to wind up in jail because they decided to make you look like a pedophile, if you're going to, they're going to make you look like a shooter, they're going to make you look like a bomber, they're going to make you this, that. So it'll change day by day. So today I'm reminded of the Broad Street Run. And I was kind of surprised. It looks a little different than what I remember. So we'll go back to 2010. I do believe I was set up for whatever would happen in 2011. And then it was like the world being exploded, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And I swear to God, for someone, it was like a sci-fi movie. I don't know how high up this goes or what people can see who are higher beings per se, but it's crazy stuff. Anyway, in 2010, I had been running with a running group called the Front Runners, and I met a couple people like Steph and Meg, and they had me walking their dog. They're like, "Oh, you want to walk our dog?" And we sort of became friends, and I worked for them as a dog walker. They invited me to things like a murder mystery party, which would plant a seed. See how that becomes an anchor? I even had another friend who went to a murder mystery party, and she lives in Seattle. She still does. She used to live in Philadelphia and moved to Seattle. And I visited her, and she talked about the murder mystery party she just went to. I come back, Steph and Meg hold a murder mystery party in 2010, and it's like everything's a murder mystery. But see how it plants a seed? And then also Steph and Meg, Steph had a brother who was supposedly the #1 sharpshooter in the nation. And she had a lot of family members involved in ranger jobs or military jobs or what have you, police jobs, mounted police, out in like Portland or whatever. They no longer exist, that department. They shut down the mounted patrol a few years ago. But anyway, all of these things get planted. So when I was scared out of my apartment, there was a night when I had invited my mom up to stay with me after like 4 days of trying to get around the city and scared shitless. I finally, out of complete and utter fear and constant like trembling, convulsing, shaking every day while walking dogs and trying to I had to keep working. I had to pay rent. I didn't know how to like not work. You know what I mean? My mom came up, stayed with me, and for some reason I kept feeling as though there were snipers in the 3rd-story window across the street. There were row homes across the street from where I lived, and I was in the 1st-floor apartment of a row home of apartments, and I thought there were snipers. There was a night when I thought there were snipers in the window. I thought when we turned on the garbage disposal that it would blow up. I thought my mom was going to pull out a gun out of her gator purse, because she had a Florida Gators purse, and would shoot me as if she were a highly roboted CIA spy who would have been activated. Because she wouldn't have been a spy. No one in my family would have been a spy per se, but people could be used to be a spy. You see what I mean? Someone could be activated. But all of that was downloaded to my brain in one night. And I know these people out there can do it. They can create the circumstances, the environment, and they can float the thought or theory to scare the shit out of you. I actually thought my garbage disposal was going to blow up, but my mom was there, and I didn't want her, I didn't want to voice it because I didn't want her to think I was like totally lunatic crazy. So she's like, just cut the stems and we'll put the stems in the garbage. Just look at the end of the flower stems and blah, 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 put them in the garbage disposal. And I was afraid, but really a whole bunch of thoughts went through like, okay, well, we could just turn it on really quick and, oh, well, if it blows up, it blows up. You have to like sort of trust, take the chance. Like there's nothing you can really do. I could have thrown the stems out and said, no, I don't want to use the garbage disposal. But it was like so many thoughts went through really quick because CIA, that's all I can say. Or similar. I don't know what to say about how crazy it got. And this would happen to anyone in my position. It's not like anyone's immune to this. If they choose you, done. They can mess with your brain right quick. So anyway, Steph and Meg were people I knew leading up to this. I even invited them. I was like, "Hey, are you interested in running? Because I'm running with a gay running group." And they're like, "Oh, maybe, maybe." And then they came back saying, "You know what? We signed up to run, but we're going to run with the Bryn Mawr running group." So it was sort of like a cut. You know what I mean? Like they were and weren't friends. They could seem like friends, and they invite me to a Christmas party, to the murder mystery party, to this, that, and the other. And we did a lot of things together. Went to Brandy Carlisle concerts back then. Even Brandy Carlisle sang at the boardwalk. She sang in Delaware and she sang at the boardwalk in Atlantic City, but the boardwalk one was dependent on how many people would buy tickets. And I actually think it wound up selling enough tickets because of what was going on. I am so not kidding. I am so not kidding. I am so not kidding. How many lesbians can we rally up in a time period when the L word was at its peak and everybody's riding the L word wave? The L word being the lesbians and women and all that other kind of stuff. So they sold enough tickets just in time to go ahead and play at the boardwalk at Atlantic City. Somebody took a gamble and won, I guess. Now, when it came around to the Broad Street Run in 2010, and I can't remember, I guess it was at this time of year in 2010, they kind of switched things up here and there. But Steph and Meg said they were running, and a couple neighbors of theirs were going to run. Someone named Karen and her husband Liam, who I'd met at the Christmas party. And also Karen would magically, coincidentally, show up at a sign language class that I wanted to take in 2010. I was like, wow, in a city of 5 million people, and you show up. And I just, we met just at the Christmas party, just in 2009. So anyway, go to the Broad Street Run. I'm like, oh, I'm going to root for people because there's people from the gay running group, and then there's Steph and Meg will be in there. I didn't know Karen and Liam were going to be in there. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And I see a bunch of runners from the front runners. Like I saw, you can't always catch everyone. A lot of people from the front runners group, they are on the faster side. So they would tend to be in the earlier corrals per se. And most of them were men. And I kept looking for Steph and Meg, and I kept looking for Steph and Meg, and I kept looking for Steph and Meg, and I kept looking for Steph. And I was like, wow, it's getting, and there were a lot of people. So this race went on forever. We're talking like several hours, no Steph and Meg, stragglers coming in, no Steph and Meg. But I saw Karen and Liam running. So I actually saw them. Then all of a sudden I started to wonder, like, I had this weird thought, but it didn't really stick that much. But it was like, there's not somebody like in my apartment rummaging around, because I had given Steph and Meg the key as you would like a friendly neighbor in case you get locked out, someone has a key. I had their key because I walk their dogs. And also I had asked them to take care of my cats. It might have been in preparation of that. I don't know when the Broad Street Run was that year, but I gave them a key to take care of my cats for when I would visit Becky out in Seattle. She's the other one who went to a murder mystery party. So it was this thing of like, all of a sudden I had this weird thought, because I also had dog walks. So it was like, I would go to the Broad Street Run, then I would walk a dog, and it didn't stick that long, but I was like, nobody's in my apartment messing around, are they? So I started to wonder, especially after 2011, I started to wonder how many people were messing around. And Steph and Meg actually said, do you want your key back? Will that make you feel better? But then it also felt like a cut off friendship. Instead of, we still have your key, is that okay? Do you want us to still keep it just in case? And I would have said that's fine. But them actually sort of forcing to give it back, they wanted me to take it back, made me actually distrust that. It was both. Like, well, they're trying to say they weren't in the apartment, but it just got too weird. They said and did things that were too weird. And oddly, Meg was actually the roommate of the guy who was shot for the iPod Shuffle. And Meg, I met after I met Steph. I met Steph first, and it was kind of a heartbreaking thing because I was like, oh, someone normal. Like Steph seemed normal. She seemed sort of like me-ish. We were closer in age. And then I met her in the dog park, trying to look for clients and also walking someone's dog. And this is down at Sega Run. And then I would see Steph with Meg, and it was during a time period when it was like I was looking for friends or people to feel close to, and it was like my heart sunk because here was this person, Meg, who turns out was her partner. I was like, who's Meg? And I didn't always love Meg because of her personality. But over time, it was sort of a thing like, well, I guess Steph is with Meg, so oh well. And they invited me to do stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll just hang out. And that's how you get to know people and so forth and so on. But Meg was the actual roommate of the guy from the 4th and South Street Starbucks, which no longer exists, by the way. And it used to be there on the northeast corner of 4th and South, across from the Copa Banana and near Milk Boy. And that guy came in to teach at the public schools, and he was going to do a special program. You could sign up for a certain fellowship, and he was awarded this fellowship, and he was going to teach through that program. And he was shot after returning home from a late night shift, and he wound up dead. And that was Meg's roommate. And these people would come into my life about 3-ish or 4-ish years. Like that was 2005-ish, I think. So they showed up in 2008-ish. Who are they? What were they doing? Do they kill people off? Or do they create fake scenarios? But still, I am actually victimized. So I'm kind of curious who these people are, who they think they are, what they're doing, why they were here, where they are now. I can't find them. If I were to do like a quick Google search, I can't find them. They're nowhere to be found. So that's it for today, day 120, hoping to get some funders. I'm someone who learned a very hard work ethic. My first job was Burger King, and I've had 68 different jobs since then. I've been paid by 68 different entities. I counted every single formal or informal, freelance or on-staff employer that has paid me. I've worn many hats, and I do believe I've earned a nice retirement home and a nice 401k. But because independent contractorship was so heavily promoted, and because I worked in places where so many shenanigans went on, I actually feel like I'm on a CIA program without consent. And whatever jobs would actually come my way would involve a lot of abuse. I've worked in environments that are extremely abusive. So much so that you keep hunting for another job. You keep looking for another job, keep looking for another job. Even in dog walking, there's a lot of abuse. Keep looking for another job. How can I move? There's got to be a nice place to live and nice people to work with. And I have to start all over again. I'd like to work somewhere and have a mortgage, have a cat, a dog, and not have to put up with being abused all the time. Isn't that crazy? Okay, have a great day, and thank you so much. Thanks, Philly.